Iraq, at least 5 people have been killed near the capital Baghdad after rocket fire targeted a camp for Iranian dissidents. Katyushas struck the base, housing members of the Mujahideen-e-Khalq. 40 others have been wounded. So, who were the targets? Well, the Mujahideen-e-Khalq is a group that's been based in Iraq since the late 1980s. Its aim is to overthrow the Islamic Republic of Iran. They were invited by Saddam Hussein during the Iran-Iraq war and housed in camps in Baghdad and close to the Iranian border. The Iraqi government armed the exiles with tanks and heavy artillery, helping it to carry out raids into Iran. But after the toppling of Saddam Hussein in 2003, the Mujahideen were disarmed by the Americans. They've been viewed with suspicion, and in April 2011 their base was attacked by Iraqi security forces. At least 28 people were killed. Last year they were transferred to the former US Army Camp Liberty just outside Baghdad, where they're waiting to be resettled by the United Nations. For more, let's cross to Jane Araf in Baghdad. Jane, these people have been there since, what, the 80s, so what are they still doing there?
Well, essentially, they're still here in what they call a prison camp because nobody wants them. Now, the fact that this group is here and their uncertain status is really a legacy of what happened in 2003 when their weapons were taken away. And we're talking about tanks, artillery, pretty much everything. They were put under the temporary protection of the U.S., and then when that ended, when hostilities ceased, they basically had no status, and they still have no status. They're now being processed by the UNHCR, so they are potential refugees with that UN refugee agency. But the Iraqi government has been doing pretty much everything it can to close down the main camp near the Iranian border and get them out of the country. The problem is they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave their camp. They don't want to leave the fight. And no other country is willing to take these people who have been kept here, indoctrinated, and have been fighting this battle that many feel was lost long ago for years, pretty much their whole lives. That's what they're still doing here, and that's why there's such a problem. Stephen?
Jane, is there a security issue here? Because how is it possible to launch so many Katyushas to attack a huge military base?
That is definitely a disturbing development. It's a kind of attacks that we were seeing years ago when the Americans were still in that very base. It is a U.S. base. And as you can see from that video, they're living in those trailers with absolutely no protection from rockets or mortars. We spoke to an advisor to Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, and he said, we can't tell where they came from. How could we be responsible? I just spoke to a camp leader in Camp Liberty, a leader of the MEK, the organization. And he makes the point that it is a military area near the airport, that they should in fact be able to detect and stop rocket and mortar attacks. So it's all very murky, but traditionally attacks like that, rockets and mortars, have been tied to organizations backed by Iran.
All right,
Stephen?
Jane Araf reporting. Many thanks, Jane.